So welcome, Bryan Kramer, to the UpLevel Podcast. It's so wonderful to be with you today.
When I saw your name pop into my inbox that said, "Would you like to be on my show?" I was like, I ran into the other room. I told Courtney, I'm like, guess what? So thank you. I really appreciate it.
That's super sweet. You know, we're in this season of leading through crisis, chaos, and change. And the way that I've been finding guests for this season is I've been observing people. Like I've been kind of lurking in the socials and just really watching people, how they navigate these times. Because, well, let me ask you, how would you describe the times humanity's living through right now?
Chaos is one word. Turmoil, dare I say hate, vitriol, needing, and everyone keeps using the word balance, which as a Libra, I have always been in search of, and I have yet to find it. But yeah, it's really not a, it's a time which is really interesting because I think it's a time when there's a huge opportunity, and it's tough to see the opportunity.
Yeah, huge opportunity and tough to see. Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I've been like observing, and I've watched you and your partner Courtney really navigate these times with grace and with courage. You've made some big moves, like literally, but I suspect also internally in yourselves in order to make the big moves. So I wanted you to come on and talk and give us your wisdom and guidance. And there's many things that you do that are so aligned to the work that we do at UpLevel. But I want to pull out this one line: being human is everyone's advantage. What do you mean by that?
Yeah. And if I can even insert the word competitive advantage, it is the most important thing that we could be right now more than ever. In fact, if everybody just took that one thing away and they got nothing else from this entire interview, that would be like, please just take that one thing away. Being human is and I'm speaking to you who are listening, your competitive advantage, because right now, everyone's trying to automate relationships. They're trying to create connection through the fastest way possible. There's, when I first wrote about it, which is in my book, Human to Human in 2014, it was a whole different dynamic. It was like social media was just coming on the scene. And now we're like, oh my God, I can talk to people around the world. And companies were like, wait, what do we do with this? We have to hear from our customer. They're going to tell us what they think about our product or our service out loud publicly, and we have to answer them. This changes everything. So it was a big paradigm shift. And now, years later, even though we think it's table stakes, they still don't have it down. And now enters Chat GPT and AI and bots and virtual reality and all these other things that are disconnecting us from the very thing that we wanted in back then in the early 2000s to the mid 2010s. So what can we do to stand out? Be more human. Like really do more human things. Like when was the last time you got a handwritten thank you card in the mail?
Yes.
Or somebody that just actually replied to an email that wasn't templated, and it gave you something that you knew they were listening. I mean, these are like really simple things, but they're really hard to find now because everything is so robotic and templated.
This is so powerful. Let's get some more ideas out on the table. What are some other things we could be doing as humans right now to bring more humanity? I love that. I love the personalized thank you note with handwritten, getting things in the mail. Like, these are great. What else?
Yeah. What else? I love encouraging, like on my newsletter, the way that I built the newsletter was through H2H interaction. And I love engagement. Like engagement for me is the number one metric every company should use. Not sales, not clicks, not anything else, but engagement. If your engagement goes up, everything else goes up. Sales goes up.
So true.
Clicks go up. Everything else goes up when engagement is higher.
Yes.
So focus on engagement, human engagement. So what does that look like? Maybe like for my newsletter, I'll on a Saturday, I'll send it out usually on a Wednesday, and I'll take a few days, and then will reply back on a walk on Saturday on video to each and every person and say, "Hey, Tom, I love it. That sounds great. And here's what I think about that." And then hit send. And it's a video that I just recorded for Tom and sent back to him. And most of the time, I'll get a reply back going, "Holy crap. You took time to do a video for me," not just like reply with one word answer, but like really reply. That kind of stuff is the stuff that changes everything. If you're talking on a one-to-one level, that's really doable. If you're looking at companies that are like, well, how do I scale that? Or how do I do more of that? Think about what the other person is going through. Like one of the things I love is when Amazon has interesting customer service people like chatting with them. They have permission to actually chat back about whatever it is that they're chatting back about in humor, like using humor. Like one guy ordered the book Valhalla and he didn't get it. And he said, "I did not get my book. It didn't arrive. What do I do?" And the guy said, "Can I call you Thor?"
Amazing.
And he's like, "Yes, Thor.
Yeah.
May I call you Odin?" And he says, "Yes, my son."
Oh.
And they go back and forth in this whole like dialogue, speaking in Odin. It's Odin talking to his son. And he says, "Well, thou art not have thy book now, but shall send it in the next day. You will have it soon. We will never allow this to happen again." And you're reading this and you're like, okay. That is awesome. Who does that? Amazon. If Amazon can do that, why can't every company do that?
I got full body chills because it's like this is the humanity, the humor, the customization, the truly deep listening to the individual on the other end, whether you can't even see them, you don't know them. How can you tailor your communication to them? Because it has become so robotic. And the other thing I was thinking about is I really believe humanity's in this, we're worn out. You know, there's just been a steady stream of crisis after crisis. So like there's been a real wear down. And so our ability to navigate like that has really diminished. What are some tips you're using for yourself as a leader and then with your clients that you're bringing into organizations to help people grow their capacity to bring more humanity?
That's a really good question. Well, tips for myself are, it's one of the things that I see. I'm sure you see it in your coaching as well, which is a lot of people are trying to speed up and do more, and the doing more and being we've taken it almost to the degree where the hustle is like the thing that makes us better, and it's not. It is totally opposite from that. I think slowing down is how we take care of ourselves and others. And a lot of things like when I slow down, it's totally against my nature to slow down. I don't know. That is not who I am. I'm not that on the human design chart. And so for me to forcefully slow myself down is like rubbing sandpaper together. It just does not work.
Same.
And
yeah.
And when I do, I noticed like I just took 10 days off and went down to the ocean in Lagos. And I'm like, what took me so long?
Yeah.
That is exactly what I needed. I came back full. I came back, ready. I have all these ideas. I'm like much more at peace, and I found my zen again.
Yeah.
So it's that in part. I think the other part is constantly working on ourselves,
Mhm.
like really working and doing the deep work on ourselves and really understanding what is getting in the way. And if we can really lock in on that, whether it's with somebody we trust or someone, or with ourselves, that part is going to release a lot too. So, those are some of the basic ways that I think it really helps to be present with all of this stuff going on. When I think about how you do that with a company, I mean, the companies that invest in that kind of self-care for their clients, when they really invest on having the ability to manage that self-care and be able to take time away and do those sorts of things, and really ask the hard questions of how are you actually doing right now, and what do you need right now, and how can we create more of that for you, is going to create a lifelong employee.
Mhm.
And they're going to want to stay. We had one lady who was not doing well when we had our agency, and we not only would give her time off, but everyone awarded her a Hawaii trip, a prepaid Hawaii trip, and sent her off. And she came back from all these medical issues and all these things that were going on in her life, and came back with more peace and an understanding of what to do moving forward, and got rid of all of that, not all of it, but most of it in her work. And she ended up being with us for 12 years. That wasn't the goal, but the outcome was pretty darn good, because we invested in understanding that this is a human being that needs to take time away to actually see what was going on with her so she could go do that. So there's opportunities left, right, and center.
We've talked a lot this season about how we are collectively creating the new way of working, the new way of living, like together. That's why we believe everything is, breaking down and burning down, because there's something new and this is why we're having these conversations. We're architects of it. And that example, I think, is a really powerful example for leaders and organizational heads to start thinking about building the new way of working. Like, it's like truly investing in our people. And no longer is this just like a HR thing. It's like, this is how we get to move forward and have profitable, sustainable business results that can make a difference in our world. What was, I mean, you may not have one thing, but what got you to your mission of H2H, bringing humanity to the workplace? What's your story leading to that?
Unfortunately or unfortunately, I guess fortunately, I was born with it. It's who I am, my soul. I really don't have a point where I said, hey, this is really going to be my mission. Like, it actually astounds me that I was gifted this thing that is aligned to who I am. It happened all of a sudden one day, actually in 2014, when I was standing in front of 250 plus executives, and up on the screen behind me in the middle of a presentation was, there's no B2B or B2C, it's H2H, human to human. And then I went on to the next screen, and my friend Ted Rubin, who was emceeing, said, wait a second, go back. And I moved it back a slide, and almost all the executives lifted their phones and took pictures, and it went on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and it got over 48 million impressions within 24 hours from that. I didn't plan that. That was the universe going, hey, we're going to reward you for all the work that you've been really trying to get this message out. And now it's time. Yeah. And so we had a good friend that said, hey, you have all this content that you've been writing for the last couple of years on exactly this topic, turn it into a book. And so with Courtney's help, we edited my book together from everything that I'd written, in 4 days and published it. And it became a bestseller because we took advantage of this really great gift. And so, I really just like immediately went, wow, this is like exactly what I want to do with my life is really follow that. How I deliver it has been a different road and gone down different paths, but the actual essence of what it is who I am.
So can you tell us a little bit about like who you are? Like where'd you grow up and what was your childhood like? I'm just
Yeah.
curious when people have, it sounds like your mission, it chose you, it was almost innate. Like what happened before 2014?
Right. I was born and raised in San Jose, California. And my dad was retired as a physician, and my mom was a teacher, and they both were teachers. He taught at medical schools, so I grew up in an educational home.
Wow.
And I always considered myself, no matter what I was doing, in more of an educational realm or platform, and whatever it was that I was doing. But when my dad would get calls at 2 a.m. to go out to get, to deal with patients. And all of a sudden I realized like, hey, there's no way in hell I'm going to be a doctor. And I told him that like, I don't take calls at 2 a.m, 4 a.m.
Yeah.
My sleep is too good. So that was out. I really knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur from an early age. And that was something that my grandpa and my family had always done. And so it was just a matter of like, okay, how am I going to find mentors and people throughout my life that I can follow and learn from to be able to do that? And I got gifted a time at, in college, I failed a jazz history test.
Jazz. Ooh.
I know, right?
Ooh, I want to go down that path. Ooh.
And I never knew failing a test would set my life on fire because I was so pissed off that I swear to God, I got everything right on this. It was about Dizzy Gillespie. I'll never forget. And I went back in and I talked to the professor and he said, look, the URL on this, which the internet was just barely getting started. So the URL is dead. If you correct it and let me know where the URL is, I'll reverse your grade. We just need to know where the reference is. I'm like, that's crazy. I could sit there and argue with him, but I'm like, I'm just going to go back to my dorm room and figure this out. And the site was taken down. So I went to the bookstore and I bought books on HTML, and I went back to my dorm room and I reprogrammed and learned all night to program my own website, rewrote it, sent him a URL. Maybe this is not the best way of handling things, but I felt like I needed to get my A because I did do a good job. And I sent it to him and he replied back and said, okay, I'll reverse it. I'm like, well, maybe I could do this for other people. And I started to build websites, and that started me on my path of like really learning and knowing that I could just go to the bookstore and learn things and be able to grow. And so that's when I really became interested in transformation. And transforming agencies became my life. I went through agencies and taught them how to go from traditional to digital. And I really, really enjoyed it because it was change management, really. At the end of the day, it was like teaching people how to be okay with change. And when they started being okay with change, they were like, wow, look at what's possible with a website. We can do all these incredible marketing things. And so that built my career into starting a business within another business, an interactive agency. We started at 3 people and grew it to 78.
Wow.
And I did it under somebody else's P&L, which was nice to work with someone else's money.
Yeah.
And learned all these incredible things about how to manage a P&L. And then that's when I met Courtney. And the company had sold to another company. I was not a partner. And she said, maybe you should do this for yourself since you're doing it for everyone else. And I said, this is the moment I've been waiting for. So we started our agency in 2001, got married, and had a child within 2 years.
Wow.
Which is a lot of change. And it worked out, thank God. We had the agency for 25 years and ended up changing a lot over those 25 years into morphing into different kinds of forms of the agency, but it grew into 30 people and we're a $30 million agency working with at one point Cisco and Netflix and MasterCard and all these great companies. And I was traveling and speaking to 200 days a year, and then I burned out. And so that was brought me up to 6 years ago and changed my life.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an inspirational journey. A young man from San Jose, California, right? Like, and it just sounds like some consistent things I'm hearing is a lot of trust, a lot of self-trust. I'm hearing within yourself, like teaching yourself HTML and, knowing that I do deserve that mark. I've worked hard on it. There's like trust in that, like declaration. There's trust in learning a new skill. There's trust in all the leaps you took to grow the agency that eventually was yours. What is your relationship to trust?
Right now, it's less than it always had been. I think we unlearn trust. We have more trust as we go, and then we start to detach from trust. Trust in myself versus trust with others is way different. And that's, I think, the same with humanity. We trust ourselves less than we trust others, even though we think more about how we trust others. And so the biggest thing in trust is really, for me, it was learning to redefine what trust was, especially now in the last 6 years of my life, because what we're designed to do is to create from the moment, from wherever we're at. And what we end up doing is future tripping and past tripping on what should be or what could have been. And that disassociates us from trust because we're thinking more about what we could be doing or what we should have been. When I did that, changed that URL on that jazz test, I was in the moment. Yeah. And when I thought about starting that business, I was in the moment. Yeah. And so I was always present leading up to that. And the older that I get, and I suspect this is the same for a lot of people, the harder it is to trust ourselves because we start to disassociate with those things. So bring it back to presence is to bring it back to trust.
I think that's a little look into a future body of work, right, Bryan, that you're going to be bringing out to the world, right? There's a book coming around trust. And I think that talking about trust in times of navigating crisis, chaos, and change feels really essential. Your story just inherently, like you're a student of it. I mean, I know we all are, but I could just hear it in your story. And then what you just said is so profound. So what is the relationship to trust for humanity right now as we navigate these times, from your opinion?
Yeah. Well, humanity, we have to learn to turn things off in order to hear what's here and now. And so I think that social media, and which is ironic because I wrote a book on social media, and yet here I am saying we needed to turn it off. What it was then and what it is now is two totally different things. It's designed to create this idea of perfection, and it's a game. It's gamified to keep us in the game, and so I think that there's that. The other thing too, and when you look at humanity, with all that's going on, and I'll be really honest. On September 11th, I had a major crash. And maybe it wasn't on the 11th. It was like following the days after, where I hit massive depression. And it was just the news and everything that was coming in was just too much. And I couldn't hold it. I couldn't hold the world in in with everything that was coming in and where I was at, and it was just too much to handle. And so I hit a massive meltdown, and I had to fight my way out of that for months to get out of this dark place that I had been. I mean, literally would close the curtains and just hit my bed and find sleep just to find my way out. And I think that a lot of that, in the way that I found my way out was to delete all the news apps off my phone, 100%, to delete social media off my phone, and to start focusing on what was right in front of me, and really just doing the next right thing. And once I started to just do that, then everything started to really come together again. So when we look at this larger focus of control over the world, we have none. We have no control over those things. But what we do have control over is our agency of ourselves and what's right in front of us. And that's where we need to be focused, is to just simply doing the next right thing.
And the trust piece in that is, instead of externalizing trust in authority figures or trust in these external communication devices, messages, it's learning how to find that inner trust and having that be the GPS versus all of these external things that we really are conditioned to and gamified. Like you said, we get addicted, and then we lose that inherent ability to guide ourselves.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Trust is intrinsic, right? And so we can break it down into three, as you mentioned before. I'm working on the book, and I've broken it into three different areas, three pillars. One
Of
is,
course you have. Of course you have. Yay.
as I like to do.
Yes, give us the three pillars, Bryan Kramer.
And so one of them, simplicity. When things start to become too complex is when we start to lose trust. And so we have to simplify them in order to understand where that's at for us and for others. The second one's empathy, which we're losing more and more every day. And when we lose empathy for ourselves and for others, again, we start to disconnect from that trust. And the third one's imperfection, and embracing the imperfection, and not being I'm perfect or I'm perfection. And really celebrating the imperfectness, which I'll say all three of those you do really, really well, at least from a peripheral standpoint. You show up in simplicity and empathy and imperfection. And I think it really, is what connects me to you and what you put out into the world. And so those are the kinds of things that I think it connects us all. Like when we see people in those three areas, it really creates, and brands, you think about brands that are simple to understand and they're imperfect. They embrace the imperfection, not try to be, but embrace it when things happen. And they celebrate those things. Those are the things that, like, we want to stand up and go, I love that brand. I want to stand behind that brand forevermore. I'm a raving fan, and I will never go away. Even when they have a down day, I'm with them forever.
Yeah. And thank you, by the way, for the acknowledgement. I appreciate that reflection, and it's like right back at you. And the imperfection piece, I think what I would want to add in there is, like, that's the humanity piece. So it's not just showing our imperfection, like, say, as a brand, when there's an unintended impact in a communication. But it's also showing that there's like a range of what it means to be human, which, in our society, we deem this as imperfect. Oh, I have a day where I'm angry. I have a day where I'm sad. I'm depressed right now. Right. And so there's, like, as entities, it's like showing that full range, which the imperfectness is our humanity. Like, that's actually what makes us human.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and forevermore. And the more that we see perfection, the more we feel we lack trust. We lose it. So when we're trying to be too perfect, it creates I think it's the tug of war. And so it's not, let me give you an example. When I sent out an email one time, I was really, have you ever hit send on an email blast or a newsletter, and the stress that goes through your mind when you're about to hit send to however many people, and you're like, I swear to God, I looked this whole thing over 10,000 times. There's no spelling incorrectness, and you're good. So I'm going to hit send. And then all of a sudden I go, wait a second. There's got to be something.
Yeah.
So I forwarded it over to Courtney, and she's like, nope, looks good. And I forwarded it over to another friend. They're like, nope, looks good. Okay, I'm hitting send. And I wake up the next morning, and it said, and I realize that the tag that says dear name, I forgot to replace the name bracket so that it actually put in the correct name of all the people that went out to.
Okay.
And so it said dear name, dear name, dear name, dear name, 15,000 times. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe I just did this. And I get replies from people, and they're like, how do you, I can't believe it, and I'm like, what the heck? So I sent another email out, and I said, dear name, dot, just kidding.
Just kidding. Yeah. Bob.
And I put, or Linda or whatever.
Yeah.
And from that, like embracing with humor, the fact that I screwed up, and not hiding it and just sending another email saying, sorry, my system did this and I incorrectly. No, let's just make fun of the fact that I am Gaylord Fokker.
Yeah.
And this is what happened.
Yes.
And the replies I got was, I am never unsubscribing. That is awesome. Or, oh my God, that is so cool. So that's what we need more of, is when I say embracing imperfection, it's really like leaning into, I just screwed up. Let's lean in farther.
Yeah. And taking responsibility, and we don't have to do it in a way that's punitive to ourselves and shames ourselves and get us, deeper into disconnection from trust. We can actually do it in a way that brings levity, brings humor, and brings connection. Like, you probably got it sounds like so many responses. I think I remember that one. So many responses from people because they're like, oh, that's so great. Like, he took responsibility in a fun way. There's a real person behind this brilliant newsletter. So that's awesome. I love how simple and elegant these 3 pillars are. I'm really excited to get this book and this next bucket of wisdom from Bryan Kramer. And there's so much more I want to tease out from you. So we do have folks who are listening to this podcast who are in survival mode. Perhaps they're living in the Middle East or other parts of the world where there is serious conflict going on. And so sometimes some of the things we talk about, it's like, how can I apply simplicity, empathy, and imperfection if I'm fearful of my life? And I do think a lot of people, even if they're not in those kinds of constructs or environments, because of the consistency of stress that's happened over time, people are operating at a level that's just not, it's harder to go work on oneself because they're below the line. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What guidance do you have in that context? And how do we help folks lead through crisis, chaos, and change when they're really in it in a whole nother level than we understand?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I can even come close to pretending to know what they're going through, other than just having empathy or trying to have empathy for those situations. And it is really difficult to think about what would you do? How would you turn to help or support? And I think that the thing that comes up for me is that we're not meant to do this alone. Mm. And if we find someone that we can talk to and share all of the things that is on our mind, and I'm speaking to myself too, I'm not perfect here. I think that it helps to alleviate and take some of the stress. It won't take it all away, but it will alleviate some of it so that you can start to clear it away. I think too that our heads are like filing cabinets, And like, if you look at a filing cabinet and you stuff all those pieces of paper inside, eventually it's like stuffed and you can't put more in there. And I know I got there to a point to where I needed to do something about that. And we've got to take some of it out. And the only way to take some of it out so that we can start to have more clarity around what to do, not how to do it, but what we need, who we need it from, is to take some of that out. And that's by releasing it into the people that you trust around you.
Yeah.
And so I would say that find someone, a person of trust that you can turn to and share how you're feeling and what's going on, and don't filter, really share it. It's cathartic as all get out, and really just release it. Let yourself go and know that it's a part of your history, not your present, so that you can then move forward.
So it's such good guidance. Who's a person in your journey, whether it's present moment or in the past, that you've really leaned into that's really supported you in this way?
Let's see. So, so this is going to be my sponsor. 6 years ago, no, sorry, 2 years ago, I entered into the AA program and I got myself sober, and I also got a sponsor, and I realized that sharing everything with this person that I trusted and going through the steps really released a lot of that for me. That person, Jeff, is just like probably one of the most vital people in my recovery journey with alcohol that I've ever come across. And just when I thought I was fine, and life is good and everything's good, all of a sudden comes something else that I needed to work on and deal with. And I didn't realize that I hadn't actually gone through and released all of these things, these dependencies in my life by not sharing it with another human being in the way that I needed to. And when I did, it really changed things. So just by having that person sit there and listen, who had been through it before and understood what it felt like, with 26 years under his belt, knowing what it could take to go through and move through this, really helped me to see that there's a chance, there's an opportunity to move through it by going through and trusting the process. I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know why it would happen. I really didn't question it at that point, because I was at the point where I didn't know. I didn't even know anything about these things that were happening to me, other than I just need to be doing what I'm told. And when I did that, then all of a sudden things started to change for me. So, that was probably my biggest lesson with another human, and trusting that could get me through to where I needed to be.
Super powerful. How has not having the substance of alcohol helped you lead through crisis, chaos, and change?
Oh my God. Do you have 2 hours?
Give me the bottom line, baby.
Oh my gosh. It's like a superpower now.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, that's the best way I could describe it. Like, I show up in ways for my wife and my family and my business and my friends and the world in a whole new way. I now know what the word happy means, to have happy moments. I know what a consistent set of good mornings actually looks like too. So, there's a really, I feel like a person who can start to see that, more clarity in what others need, from me. And that I'm not leaning into my own ego of what it is that I need. It's not just me here. Those are just a few. I mean, I could really go on.
So, like, witnessing you over the past few years and not knowing that you were going through what you just shared, and thank you for sharing it the past 2 years, like committing to sobriety and the program and having this sponsor. I've experienced you really step into your elderhood. And some of the qualities are what you said, like there's more of a sitting back and a deeper listening. And then what's coming through you, like you were always human to human. That was always there. But now it feels so like precisely genuine in service of whoever's receiving your medicine. So there's like sobriety. And I want to say this, I'm not just talking about like alcohol. There's something about the times we're living in, just exploring sobriety. What does it mean to lead a sober life? Because you talked about social media, technology. We are all addicted to these little devices. We can be, and this has been my thing, addicted to work. Work has been a very safe, if you will, coping mechanism for me in my life. Overworking out, training for marathons and triathlons, like that's an addiction. So I want to ask the listeners, like through you, Bryan, it's like, what does it mean to lead a sober life? How can sobriety support me to lead through crisis and chaos and change? What does sobriety bring humanity at this moment in time?
Yeah. You're giving me goosebumps. This is where I think we all can find addiction in something, is what you're pointing to.
Totally.
And that's me. And I can now see it and acknowledge it, and I see it in everyone. And the thing that we have to remember is that we're not in control. That's when I start to go to the other side. When I start to try to control, it's like if I asked you to go into the ocean and stop the waves, could you do it?
Definitely not.
You can't. And right. So it's impossible, but we can find a wave and surf it. And that's the goal, is to not try to stop the ocean. We have this global problem going on. We are not in control. I had to give that up. Mm-hmm. I had to let myself go. I'm encouraging everyone to let go. Mm-hmm. Let go so that you can start to not own the ocean, but let the ocean own you, so that you can find the wave that you want to surf and surf that one wave. And once you find that wave, that's joy. That's happiness.
Drop the mic, Bryan Kramer. And if you could see his big smile right now, it is pure joy. It's like, it's so cool to witness you on this wave and where you are. And not too recently, you and your partner, Courtney, made a big decision to leave the United States and move to Europe. I know that there's people listening who have big moves in them, literally and metaphorically. When did you know, or how did you know it was time to say, yep, I'm making the big move?
I think that we had been talking about it for a while. We were like playing the where do you want to live game, like we all kind of like play with our friends, and nothing was coming up. And not that I have a problem with the US, but nothing came up in the US. And we knew that Europe was a once in a lifetime. We also knew that it was a window of opportunity when our kids were now out of the house and our parents were okay, and everything was aligning to let's do something neat. Let's really find something that would give us like a totally new outlook and perspective on life. And I'm really lucky that I married a partner that is like she's adventure is like that's who she is. And so when she said, what do you think about Europe? I was like, this could be cool. Let's go visit. And we did, and we loved it. But what really made the difference for me was just saying, screw it. Let's just do it. and just jumping in. It's like everything else in our life. I'm in a really good spot. She's in a really good spot. Our life really made sense. Everything was in alignment. Everything was on remote. We're remote working anyway. And so we just said, screw it. Let's try it. If we don't like it, we'll reverse it. We'll go back and we'll try something else. And everything is reversible. So let's just go do it. And we did. It was a good 6 months, I think, of just like processing and paperwork. And we sold everything we owned, which was actually, to me, that was more cathartic than the decision of moving.
Yeah.
Because we let go of actually like down to 13 bags. We gave or sold everything away. And that for me was like, oh, I just think everybody
sobering.
should do that.
That is sobering. Super sobering. Yeah. Yeah. What's like letting go? Like you really let go.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, if you get a chance to just really like, like think about when you go on vacation and you take a bag with you and you have, however many shirts, shorts, pants, whatever. And then for a week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks, however long you're gone, do you ever really miss the stuff that you actually have at home?
Nope.
That's how it was when we let go of everything. I didn't even know what I owned. I opened some boxes and then I was like, oh, that's where that was. And then I was like, I should keep it. And Courtney's like, no.
I love it.
We can't do that. So we're holding each other accountable to that. But that to me is like, that was the benefit of moving. More than the move itself was the letting go of the stuff.
And this is why we do these things, right? And I know we have great privilege when we have that ability to pick up and go to a new country. It's not as easy for everyone to do that. And if it is something that's in one's scope, connect with Bryan and learn more about how to do this. And, I'm in the process of that too. We're building a life in Costa Rica and it's been challenging. There's been lots of challenges. I mean, going to the jungle is not for the faint of heart. And if one is really committed to lifelong learning, then this is a great way to speed up the curriculum. Move to a new country, a new continent, and look at what comes up. And how can you use your tools and skills and mentors and guides to support you through it? Because I loved this. I loved all the guidance you're bringing us, but don't do it alone. Find the guides and the resources, because no matter what your context is, that's what we really need that right now. We're going to have a part 2 of this conversation, Bryan. I feel like we're just getting going. So thank you. Like we're just getting going. What is your prayer for humanity in this moment?
My prayer is that I believe everyone deserves calm. And I want that for everyone. I know we say peace and we throw peace around, but what I really want is just a sense of calm, and to feel that like deeply, like a really neat, like light sitting in the middle of your chest that just really emotes this calm, this warm calm, where we can feel like everything's going to be okay. We're all good. And we're exactly where we need to be right now. That's what I hope for humanity.
A beautiful prayer. May it be so. May it be so. And how can folks stay connected to you, find your good work, stay in tune for this new book coming out, which is profound and good timing, my friend?
Thank you. If you go to bryankramer.com, my website, and it's funny. I was telling my dad like a while ago the spelling of my name, and he's like, I named you. I'm like, yeah, but you named me with a Y instead of an I. And so now I got to tell everybody that. And so it's just like, so anyway, Bryan with a Y, Kramer with a K, and .com. And then my newsletter and my books and all the things are there. And as I stated before, I'll reply back to every email that you send or reply back to my newsletter. So Yeah, that's a good place to go.
And get on Bryan's newsletter. I receive it. I look forward to receiving it. I have unsubscribed from most other newsletters. And Bryan's is one that I can't wait to get, because everything you've shared today, Bryan, you live by. I mean, it's you bring such sincere value to people, and it is so connective. And I'm really grateful that you were able to come and talk to us about this specific topic. And thank you for bringing your heart to us.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it. I would, when Christy Mann says, "Hey, will you be on my podcast?" That's like a hell yes. So thank you. I really appreciate you.
Appreciate you. So I hope to see you and Courtney in Europe, or you'll come to the jungle. But we're going to keep shining our lights and doing this good work, and bringing more humanity, not just to workplaces, but to all the places.